the good, the bad, the odd. It's one hell of a podcast.
Welcome to this episode of The Good, the Bad and the Odd with your hosts Mark and Sam. Hi Sam.
Hello there.
So we got another hammer this time. We had Quatermass last time. We got another film from 1968. Oh, hold on. I think Quatermass was 67. I can't remember. Anyway, this one's from 68. It is The Devil Rides Out, also known as The Devil's Bride in America. And neither of them a great title. Actually,
neither of them are particularly representative of what happens in the film.
No. I think The Devil Rides Out is actually a really good title. However, it's not what
it doesn't happen in the film at all.
It's one of them films that doesn't happen. So what's that about? They happen, and it's based on the 1934 novel of the same name by Dennis Wheatley. So Dennis Wheatley's to blame, not Hammer, for the title, because the same events happen. So it's not the devil that rides out, but we'll come to that. Now, it was adapted by, interestingly, Richard Matheson, I believe, his only script for Hammer. I could be wrong, but I think it's his only script for Hammer, so that's kind of weird. Richard Matheson, famous for I Am Legend, The Incredible Shrinking Man, and various other things. He's quite a prolific American sort of...
films, I think he did.
I think he wrote one, the first one. I'm not sure, actually.
Yeah, Night Stalker.
Yeah. And directed by Terence Fisher, who's directed loads of the ones we've covered so far. Christopher Lee's in this, and the Duke de Richelieu, good guy for a change.
Yeah.
And he does it very well, I think.
Yeah.
It's
weird.
It's not as...
It comes across as a very Hammer Van Helsing sort of way.
Yeah.
It's like he knows more, and he like clearly like is on the good side, but he's still kind of a dick because he's like completely uncompromising in the horrible things people are seeing, not even addressing them.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one. Yeah, I mean, he is very alpha in the way Van Helsing's alpha, isn't it? It's an interesting one. It's because we have the trappings of Hammer in that. We got Terence Fisher. James Bernard did the music, which is pretty awesome. A bit bombastic, but that's what James Bernard does. And apart from Christopher Lee, no one else in this was in any other Hammer films. However, it seems to stand up very well, considering it's not got the usual trappings of Hammer.
Because you'd think Charles Gray would be in one, but no.
No, weird. And also, it's set in a time period I don't think any other Hammer film exists in. Possibly, maybe the Mummy films. Possibly. We're talking 1929, so we're talking 1920s. Almost every Hammer film is either 19th century sort of thing, in Eastern Europe, kind of, or Middle Europe, or something like. It's never disclosed. They all talk British, and with it. But
the Mummy films are like late 1800s, so this might be an untouched time period.
Okay, I think that the reason I say that is because the first Tutankhamun display was in 1924. So the interest in mummies started in the 20s. Big interest in mummies. Though I think, thinking about it, I think the ones they present in Hammer, they tend to be Victorian diggers, don't they? So yeah maybe. So it's what was I going to say? I've lost my track now. Yeah, it's contemporary. There is quite a lot of Hammer that's actually contemporary. So that's kind of interesting. They picked the 20s, which is kind of the time period of the book. So maybe that's it. So we get motor cars, but they're very old-fashioned motor cars, for example. Cool motor cars, but old-fashioned. The cast we got some interesting people in the cast. Charles Gray, the great Charles Gray. I mean, probably best known as Blofeld and the narrator in the Rocky Horror Picture Show, right?
Yeah.
No, Blofeld in Diamonds Are Forever and narrator in the Rocky Horror Picture Show. But he's been in loads of things. He's got that sort of very predatory look, hasn't he, Charles Gray? And that velvety voice. Him and Christopher Lee have got great voices. They're quite different. Charles Gray's way smoother. And a little scary, actually. We've also got one of the main actresses in this is a character called Tanith, played by Niki Arrighi.
Nike Origi, yeah.
Nike Arrighi. French, I believe, who didn't do much else after this. Did do a few things, but she married a prince. That's probably why.
Yeah.
Leon Green, who plays Rex Van Ryn, dubbed by a completely different actor throughout. For some reason, I don't know, but I believe he was famous for playing. I'm just checking this. I could be
I'm
wrong.
just looking through his film list. The only thing I've recognised on here is that he was apparently one of the soldiers in Flash Gordon. So.
Oh right, it was also in Carry On, Don't Lose Your Head. Now I have a weird memory of him being a Robin Hood, but you know what? There's an actor called Richard Green who was Robin Hood. But there must be something odd with his voice. He's also an opera singer, so he must have a decent voice, right?
Yeah.
But they dubbed him completely. And I have seen one little clip of him doing a scene from this film in his own voice, and it sounds perfectly fine. So I don't understand why they did that. But the actor who dubbed him is famous for doing voiceover. He's a voiceover guy. Also, Patrick Moore, a very young Patrick Moore. Patrick Moore is quite well known in British TV. He was in a lot of like crime things, usually as a copper, you know, trying to catch bad guys. In the 70s, he was also, I think, in Emmerdale more recently. Also, we have Paul Eddington, who's it's kind of weird. He's from The Good Life. He's Jerry from The Good Life.
Yeah, that was a weird show.
But he's good in this, right?
He's pretty good.
It's just so weird seeing Jerry doing all this. Right, okay, so that's kind of the cast, and as I say, directed by Terence Fisher. Now, so it's set around London and the south, you know, Berkshire and stuff like that. It's that kind of area. And then we have the Duke de Richelieu, who is an exiled French aristocrat, because the French didn't want their aristocrats, right? So he's and this is 1929, so he would have been exiled when he was very young, but he is a duke, right? And he's got friend Rex, and they've got a younger friend called Simon, who's played by Patrick Moore. And they kind of now, if you know the history of the books and that, these three are like adventurers. They get involved in all sorts of adventures in the books, right? So more like Indiana Jones. Yeah, there's a whole series. They get involved in like the Russian Revolution or the tail end of that, and then they're not particularly horror or black magic-y kind of books here, but this one they veered into. I believe, I could be wrong. I haven't read any of the other books. I have read The Devil Rides Out, and I enjoyed it quite a lot.
It's
quite an
interesting book out, 11. So
there you go. Yeah. And probably most famous because of this film, and I think it might have been the best seller of the series as well. So it's quite a famous book. And while it structurally is about the same, the book's way madder than this. They toned it down for the film to make it actually work a bit better. And that's a
statement, to be frank.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you an example. There's a bit where Richard Matheson did a great job on this, right? There's a bit where they're going up. Basically, the Duke kind of imposes himself at one point and sort of says, "I want to see your, observatory." And at one point, Rex goes, "Why do you want to see his blasted pictures?" And in the film, he goes, "I don't." That totally works. You totally get what the Duke's about. He wants to know what's going on. But in the book, it's 3 pages of dialogue explaining what's going on. So, do you get what I mean? Now, the book's really good. It's a book, though. It's a book, and it's kind of mad and interesting. And there's all sorts of mad stuff in it. There's whole chapters, a few chapters on things like numerology, explaining why McCarthy's so powerful, and all this, that, and the other. Right? They cut all that. For this. So Richard Matheson, in my opinion, did a great job of converting it. Anyway. So one of them flies in. Is it Rex flies in on a small aircraft, and the Duke meets him, and they talk about the fact that they haven't seen Simon and is a bit worried about him. So they go to Simon's new house, or one he's renting, and there's all these odd people there. There's a cross-eyed lady, and they've all got slightly strange names, and McCarthy's one of them. the Duke's a bit suspicious, but then suddenly they're mixing with the others, and suddenly and they meet this girl Tanith, and Rex says, "I think I've met you. I think I know you," all this kind of stuff. It sounds like a pickup line. And then suddenly a few other people arrive, and the girl says, "I don't understand. There should only be 13." And then Christopher Lee
you can see Christopher Lee's head snap round in the background.
It's like he's been electric, and he's trying to stop Rex Rabbit on, who's going, "Oh no, we just come to visit," and all this. And then the girl's like, "Excuse me," and leaves. And then once the number 13 comes on, the Duke's very, very suspicious, right?
Yeah.
And he says, "We're going to be asked to leave in a minute." And sure enough, as soon as he says that, and he says, "Oh no," he says, "we're going to be asked to leave. Mix and listen to what's going on." You see the Duke casually saunter around this party, lighting his cigarette and just walking around, and people saying, "Oh yes, the conjunction is so and so, like it was in Berlin in so and so, and all this. So we should have a good evening and all this, that, and the other." And Rex is, I don't know, off. We don't see it, but essentially they're asked to leave, and the Duke's, that's quite all right, fellow. We're not part of the society. That's fine. He says, "But I see your observatory." Before Simon can stop him, he marches up there. Now this observatory is proper, quite flash, right?
Yeah.
It's got occult decorations on the wall and the floor. It's got the devil's head on the floor.
That was quite startling.
And this is why these aren't astronomical charts, are they? And, he knows it. He says, "Oh no, it was just decoration." He says, "Good of you to extend it to the floor." But then there's a sort of scratching noise, and the Duke holds his hand up. And everyone shuts up because it's the Duke, right? So he's they all shut up, and he rushes over to the place he can hear the scratches. Simon tries to stop him, but he opens a wicker basket with a black cockerel and a white hen, and he's like, "You little fool!"
Spins and slaps him.
Yeah, it's "You little fool! I'd rather see you dead than mixed with black magic." It's all that, right? They get turfed out. But no, they don't. He chins him, doesn't he? Christopher chins Simon, and they just carry him out of the house. They basically kidnap him from his own house, which disrupts whatever this dodgy lot are going on about. Then the Duke hypnotized. There's a lot of hypnosis in this film.
There's an absurd amount of hypnosis.
A lot of hypnosis. Simon's asleep, so they wake him up to hypnotize him to go back to sleep.
Yeah.
But he does sort of say, "When you wake at 10 a.m. in the morning, you'll be fully refreshed and your mind will not be troubled." All that kind of business, right? And then he puts a cross around his neck. And again, in the book, it's a bit weirder. He puts a swastika around his neck.
Oh.
An Eastern swastika, though, right?
Okay.
Because and Rex goes, "Why on earth do you want to put that dratted symbol around his neck? He's a Jew." It is, in the book, Simon is a Jew. He says, no. And he talks about the Nazis because the detestable party, And I remember the book set in 1929 and written in 1934, so it was before everything kicked off. Just got to bear that in mind. And he explains, no, it's a very powerful symbol. But obviously they're not going to put a swastika in the film. That would be weird, right? So they'd use a cross, which seems much more normal to me anyway, for a Western sort of.
Yeah, it feels
thing.
like something they'd have on hand.
Yeah. You wouldn't have a swastika on hand unless you're.
Yeah, there's going to be some questions if you just have a swastika there.
Yeah. But then he kind of wakes up. He's obviously under the influence of something, and dramatic music. He starts shortening the chain till he's choking, right?
Yeah.
And then the butler, I can't remember his name, comes in and finds him, and his face is bright red. He's proper choking himself. And then the butler goes down to the Duke and says, "I bought you this, sir." And the Duke's like, "What?" And runs upstairs, and Simon's gone. And he goes, "Well, what happened?" And he explains, he was choking and all this. He goes, "No, you want to know." And there's a couple of the Duke almost castigating sort of manservants a couple of times. That again happens more than once, because they just doing what they told. They don't know what's going on. No one explains anything to them. So Simon's off again. Now there is a lot of people going to houses, driving to houses, disappearing. escape. There's a lot of that in this film, but it still works.
Yeah.
It works quite well. I've forgotten how this works out. Oh, Rex
basically just goes and picks up Tanith.
Yeah, he says, I know where she is. Not explained at all, is it?
Yeah, he leaves in his car, and like the next time we see him, he's got Tanith in the car already and is driving back. And the actions generally don't know how that happened, but apparently he managed it. So
yeah, and she's sort of saying, "No, I want you to take me back." He goes, "No, we go for lunch. We're not going to talk about any of this stuff. We're going to lunch with friends of mine." So he takes them to the country home of the Duke's niece Marie and her husband Richard. And the little girl, but Rex gets out of the car, and as soon as he gets out, Tanith jumps in the driver's seat and drives off again. And Rex sort of says, borrows their car, places her, but Tanith is sweaty and like under the influence, and McCarter's eyes appear in the rearview mirror and sort of say, "You'll be safe, just don't worry, I'll look after you." And then at some point, the entire screen of Rex's car turns white. Good effect.
Yeah. I also like Rex's reaction is to immediately, like no hesitation between it turning white. He just punches a hole in it.
And carries
on. Yeah.
Carries on. But then McCarter raises like a fog and he crashes the car into a tree. So Tanith gets away. So now both Simon and Tanith are back with McCarter, so we're back where we were. But McCarter knows that the Duke and his lot are
everyone's aware. So.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Rex conveniently wakes up from the accident, and he tries to wave down a car, but it's the cross-eyed woman. And he tries to wave it down, and then he just runs down the road after it and see it pulled in the house. And we see all these fancy cars outside this house, and it's obviously the Coven are meeting. Yeah. And we see Rex lurking around the back of the cars, but we're not quite sure what happens. But everyone then drives off, and they all drive in a massive, duckling procession.
It's a little convoy.
A convoy. So. We're not sure where Rex is, but then when they arrive, we see him climb out of a boot. So he's just got into a boot and climbed out. So they're and it's Walpurgis night. It's it's the eve of May Day, which is a very big deal in black magic circles, I guess. And there's something going on, and also he does. Rex does find out Tanith is her birth name, because at one point the Jew says, "Oh, she's already been converted because she's got a famous occult name. It's a goddess of somewhere, Carthaginian goddess or something." But he does find out that's her birth name. So both Tanith and Simon haven't been baptized in, the cult, right?
They're not part of the Coven.
Yeah. Anyway, Rex stumbles off. We don't see any of this, and this is fine because it's a movie. Finds a phone, tells the Duke where they are. The Duke turns up, and both him and the Duke's kind of creeping through the bushes. Watching all these blokes, people, men and women, in these weird robes standing around, and then they sacrifice a goat, and it's proper hammer blood, and it bright red into a goblet, and then you kind of think, are people drinking it? But I think they're drinking red wine, right? I think they're drinking red wine. And at one point, and there's like an orgy starts, but I say orgy, there's just riding around dancing, and with all this kind of I don't know, wild abandoned music for Black Mass kind of music, right? I don't know how else to put it. But then they don't even say this till the end. The devil shows up.
God damn.
As the goat of Mendes, basically.
Yeah, I've got to be frank, it's a terrible costume.
Yeah, it's a bloke wearing a weird mask that's supposed to be a goat, but he's basically only got eyes. That's how it looks, right? And he's sitting on this like a special high rock. So the devil himself appears. And meanwhile, the Duke's like, "Oh my God, how can we fight that? We need more light." And Rex goes, "I've got an idea." And they just wail in with a car headlights.
Yeah, they shine lights on the goat, which kind of stuns it. They chuck the crucifix at it.
The devil who just disappears half a second.
Yeah, he just sort of pops.
Rex
And then-
punches out some of the people, and the rest of them are just running around scared, and manages to get both Tanith and Simon in the car. McCarthy's pissed off. I have to say, in the book, this works quite well because you're actually he tells it from the point of view of the people at the celebration, the ceremony, right? And they believe it's God. Lights just appear, and they think they're going to be damned. There and which is why they're so terrified in this. It's just they're I don't know, they're drugged up or something, right? And McCarter's peeved. Anyway, they drive back to the Niggs, Marie and Richard's house, and Fleur, little girl Fleur, who's okay, not an annoying child actress, she's fine. She's in it very little, but she's fine. And rock up, and it gets me. It's like you've really think it's wise to take these two people hunted by a devil worshippers who can summon the devil to a family house. And the Duke's like, oh no, the good vibrations around the house will help protect Simon. Simon and Tanith are at very low ebb. They'll be protected. We're at a low ebb. We need to recharge. We need and basically he says everyone's got to be watched. Everyone's got to be watched. While he goes off and does some more research because he does keep disappearing to the British Library. Stuff to look up certain rights and things, right? Which do turn out to be useful. It has to be said. But yeah. So then I thought this was a great. Well, we'll talk about it. What happens is McCarter just rocks up Boulder's.
Oh yeah, he gets into the house. I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, in the Duke's car. He says, "I'm returning to the Duke's car," and I thought Marie, Richard's watching Simon, Rex is watching Tanith. And Marie's not sure, see him in, but she sees him herself. And he sits down and he's sort of going, oh yeah, I'm sure you've heard some really absurd stories about me from the Duke, but let me assure you. And basically, she's sitting there, and as he talks, it gets more and more
melodic
dream state, doesn't it?
Yeah. He's hypnotising her.
He's hypnotising her. Really well done scene, I thought. What did you think?
Yeah, that was a pretty cool scene where we've got Tanith jumps up and starts almost. She's on the verge of stabbing Rex.
She is.
And the other fella just starts choking out.
Simon. He doesn't wake up, but Richard leans over him and he just starts to choke him under McCarthy's influence after he's hypnotised Marie. But I thought it was a great. If you watch it, the music builds, the voice gets slightly louder, and with a slight echo on it. So it kind of takes over the whole sound, doesn't it? And it's Charles Gray, right? So it's a really well directed and put together scene. And then he says to Marie when she's under the influence, "You have no will," and she's saying yes. He says, "Where are they?" She's upstairs. He says, is Simon upstairs? Yes, upstairs. Alone? No, he's being watched. Is Tanith upstairs? Yes. Is she being watched? Yes. By who? He finds it all out, and then he just looks up, and then this kicks off, right? Tanith almost stabs Rex. Simon starts choking Richard. But just then, is it the daughter comes in? I can't remember now.
It sort of snaps her awake because he immediately starts threatening the daughter too, and the mother does not like that, and she chucks him
straight out, chucks him out, and he says, "I'll be going now. I must take them with me. You don't understand. It's vitally important." She said, "No, get out," and he goes, "Okay, I'm going now. I will not return, but something will." That's what he says, right? And walks out. The Duke then comes back and finds out what's been happening. He's mortified. Tanith has run off at this point, right? But Rex is chosen.
Yeah, Rex caught her and kind of dragged her back.
No, he tied her up in a barn, right? And he's sitting with her. And Jerusalem said, "Okay, he's there, okay, he can look after her outside. We have to protect ourselves here." And he makes a magic ring, a ring of words and candles and water bowls and stuff like that, and they've all got to sit inside. So it's Marie. We don't hear about what's happened to Peggy is the little girl, right? She's upstairs being looked after, presumably. But we have, so they left her to whatever happens, but they're in this protected zone. So we got Marie, Richard, Simon, and the Duke in the circle. Right?
Yeah, they're all like lying in the circle, and there's a whole bit where it's like, right. They've got a pillow in the middle and like candles all around them. There's just a whole bit where the Duke just kind of just starts insulting Richard. It's like, yeah, you're the weakest of us. You're the one that they're going to go for. Because
Richard says this is absurd. Because also the Dukers insist they have nothing to eat except a piece of fruit and some water. No alcohol, no meat. And it is touchy because this is just ridiculous. And then he sort of says, Richard, they're trying to get through. Basically, he says, for the sake of our friendship, will you stay with me in this ring? Yeah. I know you're not scared, but I am, and I'd really like you to stay. And he sort of says, well, that's a low trick, appealing to friendship. He goes, nevertheless, will you stay? And he's like, yeah. So that works. And then what happens? Simon has a bit of water, and it tastes foul.
Yeah, it's gone wrong.
And the Duke scatters some holy water in it, and it's all right then. Yeah. So they're trying to, and we're getting spooky music. The lights are dimming in the room, just the candles. And this image is quite famous image. You see it a lot in horror books and stuff like that of them in the circle. It's quite a striking kind of image. And then suddenly something starts materializing. It's a giant tarantula, basically. Yeah. And it can't get into the circle. And though they're all a bit sort of scared and then, but suddenly a door opens and Peggy, the little girl, comes in and the spider starts attacking her. And the Duke mentions he knows the last two lines of the Susanna ritual, which can save them. And when the spider starts going towards the little girl, the mother's sort of saying, say those words. And he goes, I cannot. And that isn't real, and then they throw some water at the spider and it starts to kind of, it reacts badly, and then they throw the whole lot at it, and it just starts to like melt, doesn't it? It kind of just goes up in smoke, and then it all really goes dark, and the Duke's like he's given up trying to get us to leave the circle. He's sent the Angel of Death. So basically, the Angel of Death comes on a horse.
A pretty cool effect when it bursts in.
Yes, but it's got rubber bat wings, so that's. Yeah. But the horse is really striking. If they'd left the wings off, it would have been great. Yeah. And the actual Angel of Death's pretty cool too. So
if they made him a knight instead of like just a cloaked figure.
Yeah. I guess it helps reveal the face because when you see his face, it's a skeleton. Basically, anyone who sees the face of the Angel of Death dies. Anyway, the horse is kind of rearing up. There's a bit of reverse. Film, just to try and get it all working. There was an effect that I thought was awful the first time I saw it, but actually, and I said that to you, didn't I? I kept saying, there's a terrible effect. But actually, it was okay. I'm just used to the original, that's all. And basically, it does reveal his... Simon freaks out and accidentally breaks the circle, right? Kicks and breaks the circle.
Death pulls off his mask and it's a skull.
It's a skull.
Like a half a second shot.
Yes, and just then the Duke says the words, right? Holds his arms up and says the words, and everything disappears. So he's managed to stop it. But then we see I should have mentioned Tanith managed to hypnotize Rex to undo her bindings, and then he was put out to sleep, and she was like the medium to conjure the Angel of Death. Is the implication, right?
Yeah.
So when the Angel of Death doesn't succeed with any of them, it takes Tanith, so she dies. And we see Rex carry her body up to the house, and they lay it out, and they're like really appalled. And the Duke saying the Angel, MacArthur's too powerful a magician to try and summon the Angel of Death directly, and this is how he can avoid the consequences of using such a thing and all that. I'm not sure he says that, actually. It's kind of implied. It is in the book, but it is kind of implied. Then they hypnotise Marie. and the soul of Tanith is still there to ask her. Oh yeah, the little girl gets kidnapped while all this is going on. So they're trying to find the little girl. So they hypnotize Marie, the mother, who then speaks in the voice of Tanith. I have to say, the actress who does Tanith, it's got a very distinctive and interesting voice. It's kind of slightly deep. It's a bit like Fenella Fielding, is probably to anyone who knows that person. She's probably best famous for the sister in Carry On Screaming. You know, the sort of Morticia stroke Lily monster sort of standing in Carry On Screaming. Anyway, she's got an interesting voice, and she sort of says, "Yes, I can see her." She describes a house protected by a winged serpent, and the Dark One's in there, so she can't go in. But the Duke keeps insisting that she go in, and Rex goes, "Nah," you know. Rex butts in because she's obviously terrified, and the Duke's like, "You fool, Rex! You could have killed her." He's always doing this, wasn't he? He did this a lot, the Duke, telling people off. And we also find the butler was kind of darkness came over him. So again, it's like a manservant. Oh, I'm sorry, I did. Oh, it doesn't matter. It's fine. It's all right. But Rex reckons he knows where the house is, doesn't he?
Yeah, he figures out. Well, Rex is like, I've been there. I know where this
it's the house he first found all the cars because it's got a winged serpent thing on it. And you know what? I didn't see a winged serpent, but it was fair enough. They all go there and they realise, McCarter's got the little girl laid out and he's got a sharp. And he's
his plan is to sacrifice her, to leave her body an empty vessel so he can get Tanith's soul back.
Yeah, he wants Tanith's soul because Tanith's an excellent medium for him. That's the plan. But we see him about to stick this knife in the little girl when suddenly the Duke, Rex, Richard, and Marie turn up, and Rex just wails in, doesn't he?
Yeah, Rex just wanders in, fists are swinging, and takes out a few folk watching. But then, Richard tries it and immediately gets punched in the face.
Yeah, and I have to say, just before all that kicks off, the Duke said, "Please take me for her," and he says, "Your soul compared to the soul of an unsullied child," and the Duke says, "For God's sake, you daren't." And he goes, "Scarcely in the name of God," with a smirk. And the Duke's like, and then Marie's going, say those words. He goes, "I dare not, for our souls." But she's gonna die. And then they're just, McCarter's just about to do the dirty when suddenly Marie is possessed by Tanith.
Yeah, who starts to invoke the word of God.
Yeah, she says, "Only those who love with
here."
Yeah, God takes over. It's a bit, I think Raiders of the Lost Ark owes a bit to this, I have to say. And she basically all these cringy little devil worshippers, they're all like into it, and then suddenly they hear this voice ring out, and she says, only those that love without desire will be protected in their darkest hour, or something like that. And then she just walks down the stairs and all like, "Ah!" And she sits up the little girl and says, "Repeat after me." And she repeats the last two lines of the Susama ritual. And then, hell breaks loose. That's not quite the right word. Everything burns down. Curtains burn. They don't melt, but everyone disappears. Ultimately.
Yeah. Yanked to hell. And
they're dragged to hell, basically. Yeah. Right?
Then the whole thing turns into a church.
Yeah.
There's a big crucifix on the wall. I was just sort of like, okay. Right. And that's where it ends.
That doesn't surprise me, because a lot of big houses have a private chapel, and devil worship, or that sort of thing, desecrates existing chapels. That's one of its things. So it kind of, and that's probably in the book. I can't remember, but it's probably in the book. So it kind of makes sense. And then they're all back at the house again, like it was the next morning, but Tanith's not on the step. Sorry, on where she was laid out to rest. And then they open the door and Rex and Tanith turn up, and And the Duke's like, the very essence of time and space has been set back for us. And he gives a bit of a speech, and then Son goes, "Thank God." And the Duke's last line is the Duke saying, "Yes, it is him we must thank." And then it ends.
Yeah.
All that. So divine retribution there, mate. Wow.
Yeah.
What did you think?
I thought it was okay up until they did that, and then God fixed everything.
Oh, you didn't like that?
No.
That was straight out of the book. It's not,
Yeah, that
the book's
doesn't
weird.
mean it's better. Like.
Okay, yeah, I think this is a great film. I have to say, this is possibly my favourite Hammer film. I really like Quatermass and the Pit, which you were kind of okay with, but not, and I really like one we haven't watched yet, which is Captain Kronos Vampire Hunter, for entirely different reasons. But I really like this. Now, apparently, Lee reckoned that Wheatley liked this adaptation so much, he gave Dennis Wheatley gave Christopher Lee a first edition of the novel. So there is that.
I believe that Christopher Lee tended to know, like all the big writers. So.
Yeah. Yeah, he did. Yeah, he definitely did. I mean, he was related to Ian Fleming for a start.
He was related to Ian Fleming, worked with Tolkien.
Yeah, now it's interesting that this has none of the sort of sex and violence, or indeed the regulars of the usual Hammer film, but it's kind of a little more serious. It's tonally, it looks like a Hammer film. But tonally it's quite a bit different, isn't it? It's a fairly serious film, given the weird nonsense that kind of goes on. So it's and God clearly kicks the devil's ass.
Yeah.
Again, like Indiana, Raiders of the Lost Ark. So it's kind of interesting.
But Raiders of the Lost Ark is like the Nazis bring it upon themselves.
That's true.
In this, it's more like pretty much any actual like Bible story, where it's like, and then all the horrible stuff was undone because God said so. Yeah. That's not really a conclusion. That's the story stopped. So
yeah. It's interesting that I really was surprised. Like the first major highlight, a bit of action. Oh, we didn't even mention there's a bit where they go back to the house and a genie or something.
Yeah,
appears.
They get like attacked by a genie.
Yeah, and the Duke's like, "Don't look in its eyes, Rex." Rex immediately looks and says, "Don't move towards it, Rex." Rex starts walking towards
it. Well, it's like as soon as you say that sort of thing, you feel compelled to do it. So a lot of reviewers thought this was kind of average as well, but no, I really digged it. In fact, I'll tell you how much I dig this film. I worked all summer when I was 14, 15, and I spent the entire earnings from that summer, I'm talking 6 weeks work, on a Super 8 copy of this film. That's how much I like it. Back when Super 8 was a thing, right? And before DVDs and all, VHS and all that. That's how much I like it. And I've watched it many, many times because of that, right? Because when you buy a film that expensive, it was 80 quid in the 70s. Oh. That's how much it was. So it's probably like 500 now. Yeah, let's see what that costs. So in the 70s, and so
well, say 1979.
That's from the 79, 80 quid.
Yeah. And you remember I was 15, so I wasn't earning much. So you can sort of, you see. So anyway,
£318.
Oh, okay, not quite as much as but it did take 6 weeks of work to earn enough to buy it. So there you go. I really like. So you thought this was average?
Yeah,
better than most.
Kind of. It was an interesting plot, and it was Christopher Lee being a protagonist, which is fairly rare.
Yeah.
But like otherwise, it didn't have a spectacular amount of story. It had like a first act, and then it just kind of, it's like, okay, we got to wait and weather the things, and there was 2 things, and then the story kind of just stopped and God solved it.
Yeah, so the big ones were the genie, I guess, the
Yeah.
devil appearing, the circle, and the finish where God sorts everything out, right? That's kind of there's 4 big bits, and a lot of it is driving around or hypnotizing people. There is a lot of that, but for me, it totally works. And I'm kind of sounding dismissive. I have to stress, I really like this film. And I have to tell you, the book is way more mad. In the book, a llama from Tibet appears hovering and sorts it out instead of God, right? Because one of the Duke goes on about one of the enlightened beings intervened for us and all this. So the book's even more mad. If you're interested, yeah. So okay, all right. What would you rate it on your rating system?
I'd probably put it at about 5 or 6. To be
5
honest,
or 6?
it's like
really?
it's really not. It wasn't that entertaining. It didn't grab me. There was a lot of like the Duke immediately like tweeting, "This is devil worship. We need to get this sorted out." It just after that it kind of tapered out to the Duke having like knowledge that they never really like. It just kind of is like, okay, but the Duke knows the counter straight away.
Yeah.
And there's no real conflict if you have the answers from the start. So, like in universe. Like,
all right. Okay, so would you call it mid-tier, low,
yeah, probably
high?
mid-tier. So.
Mid-tier, right? Okay, fair enough. Now I have to say I give this 9 out of 10. I really like this film. Now a lot of that might be nostalgia. I loved it the first time I saw it, and I must have been about 9, 10 when I first saw it, and I never stopped loving it. And then I think I read the book once I watched the film. I really liked the book as well. The book was mind blowing when you're like 10. It's one of those, so, whoa, all this mad stuff. Didn't believe a word of it. I wasn't that, but I just thought it was kind of interesting, and all this stuff was in the world that I'd never heard of. Do you know what I mean? Even numerology, I've never heard of that. So it's like, wow, what's going on? So for me, this is a 9 out of 10. I really like it. It's at least top 3 Hammer for me. I would say that's how much I like it. And I think it's just nice to see Christopher Lee not being a bad guy. We've had him as Dracula, we've had him as Rasputin. He was a bit stroppy in Hound of the Baskervilles, and he's been a mummy, and he's been the Frankenstein's monster, and so on. There's all those things, but it's nice to have him and as an actual protagonist rather than an antagonist. Okay, let's wind up there. So that's sorry. Any last thoughts?
No, not really.
I have to say, my last thoughts are very well directed. I really liked the music. It was bombastic, but I really liked it. And I have to say that hypnotism scene with Marie and McCarter is a fantastic scene, in my opinion. One of the great scenes of cinema. That's how much I like it, that particular scene. I think it's a really, really good scene. Yeah, there is. This was the first Dennis Wheatley adaptation Hammer did. They went on to do 2 more. One we'll be covering in a couple of episodes. The other one is a fair bit later on. But this was the first Wheatley adaptation they did. There was it's kind of interesting that it involves 2 older men as the main antagonist and protagonist, with like what would be in any other sort of horror film, like the Fearless Vampire Hunters around him. It's kind of almost a Van Helsing from the Dracula book, isn't he? So it's kind of like that, where he's got what's it? I've forgotten the name of all the characters.
At the very least, in the case of Van Helsing in the book, he's while he knows the stuff, he's kind of powerless himself to do it and has to rely on like the boyfriend squad that tags along.
You have to Arthur Homewood and John Seward and all that sort of stuff. Whereas this, he knows the answers.
He knows and proceeds to do all of those things.
I have to say, at least they have the thing of, I daren't say that because it'll endanger our immortal souls. We only do it in the direst circumstance. And he did save it till then. So that kind of added to the drama somewhat, rather than just doing it right. I looked great as well. The restoration looked really good. I thought. Did you think? Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I've not seen the original for reference, but it's a pretty good version of a 70s film. So
yeah, they got some good houses and sets on this, and they weren't the usual Hammer sets either. They did look different, and the usual Hammer sets are great, but they did use different things to make it more like the 20s than like the Victorian era or whatever, the 19th century. All right, then let's wind up there. So bye from me.
bye.